All right, let's get it. Today, I want to talk about something that is well known, but also shocking at the same time. And I want to talk about the fact that the federal minimum wage is still $7.25. Yep, you heard me. $7.25. So let's get into it. The federal minimum wage has been stuck at $7.25 per hour since 2009. It is 2026. I want you to think back, right? Because this is almost 20 years ago, 17 to be exact. Think about how much things have increased in pricing over the last 17 years. And yet, nothing has been done about the federal minimum wage. And I gotta state, for the record, there are 50 states in the United States of America. Out of those 50, 30 states have increased the federal minimum wage. 20 states have not. But, and I gotta emphasize the but there, don't let that fool you. Some states are doing it because the cost of living is higher in other states, and that doesn't disqualify what I'm saying, because other states, while they have increased it, it hasn't increased by much. So for those 30 states, bravo that you took an action. But in some of those states, probably in the majority of those states, it's still not enough. So, getting back on point. If you make $7.25 an hour, you will gross. This is before taxes, gross, because I'm going to use that word a lot during this video. This is before taxes. You will gross $15,080 for the entire year. Studies show that raising the federal minimum wage would deliver a pay increase to roughly 38% of Black workers and 33% of Latino workers. Is that a reason why maybe some Republicans are so opposed to raising the federal minimum wage? I don't know. I'll let you decide. But when we think of minimum wage jobs, what are we thinking of? Retail, fast food workers, stuff like that. Those are usually minimum wage paying jobs, right? Walmart, McDonald's, etc. You guys get the point. Raising the minimum wage would enable millions of workers to become self-sufficient, debatable, naturally reducing public spending on assistance programs. What does that mean? That means if they raise the minimum wage, then they wouldn't have to argue and cry about SNAP benefits, food assistance programs, which is SNAP, all of those government funded programs to help people survive to supplement their shitty incomes. See, they're talking in circles. They're arguing against themselves. If you give people a livable wage, then there would be no need for all of these government assistance programs, which they like to call entitlements. Creating a problem and then bitching about the problem. It doesn't make sense when you look at it that way, right? Let's talk about affordability or housing affordability, to be more specific. A full-time worker earning $7.25 an hour can afford to pay a maximum of $377 per month for rent and utilities. Depending on, right? Because utilities fluctuate. How did they come up with this? Well, there's that standard 30% rule that dictates that a household should spend no more than 30% of its gross, that's before taxes, income on housing. So what did we say was the gross before? $15,080. So that's how they come up with that $377 per month. Right? Right. Now remember, earlier I said 20 states have not increased the federal minimum wage from $7.25. So out of those 20 states, the average market price for a one-bedroom apartment is $1,179 a month. The gross income for the month is $1,256.67. The math doesn't math, right? That leaves you less than $100. And that's not even true, right? Because we're talking about gross income. But just based on the gross, that's less than $100 to live off of for the entire month. Remember, you still have to buy groceries, right? You still need transportation to and from work, right? If you have a child, Lord forbid, you still have to buy clothes. You still have to probably pay for childcare. See what I'm saying? And let's add to that, if you're being responsible and you're actually having insurance, if the job even offers it, if you're having insurance deducted directly from your check. You see what I'm saying? It is mathematically impossible to live off of $7.25. And let's not fool ourselves into thinking that these are just teenagers, because we both know that they are not. There are some adults working at these jobs, but pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? Quickly, I want to talk about the no tax on tips part of the big ugly bill that the Republicans passed, right? And whenever they would say the no tax on tips, it was always a great applause line. But that's because people didn't really understand what it was and how it would actually apply to the average everyday employee. So, no tax on tips legislation only exempts tips from federal income tax, right? Which the base is $15,000. So you have to make $15,000 in order to qualify for federal income tax. Tipped workers still have to pay FICA payroll taxes on all of their wages and tips. You still have to pay Social Security. You still have to pay Medicaid. All of that stuff is still coming out of your check, right? So again, reduce that $15,080. Also, you still have to pay any applicable state and local taxes. Deduct some more from that $15,080. Is it clear now? Are you starting to see that it is impossible to survive off of $7.25, right? So in short, no tax on tips behaves less like a poverty relief program and more like a targeted tax cut for middle to upper class service professionals. If you're a hairstylist and you're getting some big tips, right? If you work at an upscale restaurant as a server, you may be getting bigger tips. If you're a Lyft driver or an Uber driver, you might be getting bigger tips. But essentially, the no tax on tips does not affect. It has zero to no effect on your average minimum wage employee. So the bottom line, any politician who doesn't support a federal minimum wage increase should be forced to live off of minimum wage for at least 6 months. Period. Maybe that would change their tune. Maybe they will see just how hard it is to survive day to day. It would be the wake-up call that a lot of these sleepy knuckleheads need. Peace.